All right. Thank y'all so much for coming back to the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. I'm your host, Champ Ron. We're here on another episode and hope that you're doing well. Hope that you're staying safe out there as we all are facing the realities of social distancing and quarantine that's tied to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. And so hope that you're continuing again to be safe. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pods. 5-star at Apple Podcasts helps us continue to expand the audience and share tremendous content. And of course, we're brought to you and powered, as always, by the Binge Podcast Network. Hope you've had a great week or a great day, whatever time that you're listening to this podcast, and that, again, you and your family are safe. I have a tremendous guest today that's joining us, Travis Smith, who is the founder and CEO of Tribevest. That's tribevest.com, Tribevest.com, Tribevest. And so we're going to learn some about his background and the phenomenal company and getting the chance to look it over. And we've got some parallels in our background that we'll discuss. But Travis, how you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining here on the Minding Your Business podcast.
Thank you, Ron. Been looking forward to this. Thrilled to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, man. Well, let's dive right in, man. Tell us who Travis Smith is and kind of how you got your start, in business, man. I know all of us have a story, right?
We do, man. Where do I begin? But yeah, thank you, Travis Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of Tribevest, and it took me about 40 years to get to that point. Gosh, I have my kind of my professional resume, and then I have my my personal journey, which both collide and intersect at Tribevest a few years ago. But as you mentioned, I graduated in finance, was hired by Morgan Stanley, trained in New York City, and the plan was to help people reach financial freedom and find financial wealth through being a financial advisor. And it didn't take long for me to realize that that wasn't the best place to achieve that mission. Really, I was more selling financial products and mutual funds than I was really helping people reach their goals.
Yeah.
I often say I was saved by software. Ended up going to work for a company called Highland Software, founders of OnBase, terrific startup, and spent a career in financial services, financial tech, and ultimately in 2016 was heading up strategic alliances at a company called Jack Henry Associates, which you're familiar with, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they service over 3,000 banks out there as their core software. And I was in enterprise payments and strategic alliances.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. And so, through that transition there, Travis, obviously you get into the FinTech space, and it seems like you were in the FinTech space pretty early on as it was really catching steam. Talk about those early days and that transition, from Morgan Stanley. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I had that same thought in banking, that I was just providing conveniences for people who already had convenience, right? And so,
Yes.
am I really serving a purpose and a passion, or, am I just making things more convenient for people who already had convenience? But talk about that transition in FinTech, because I'm curious, and I'll share with you, another piece of my curiosity here in a second after you answer. But yeah, talk about those early days in FinTech.
Absolutely. And it was before FinTech was FinTech, right?
Yeah.
It hadn't been coined yet. But I was in enterprise software, and our solution was a core offering to banks. So that's how I got introduced to banks, really. And then over the years, all these solutions that were for banks, specifically for banks, and for them to operate at their core. And then those solutions started to reach out to the consumers, which was exciting. And then at Jack Henry, which was really cool, I worked for a division called Profit Stars. I love the name of the division, Profit Stars.
Yeah.
But what we did was we took all those products that we were packaging and giving to the banks, we took them and we went to non-FIs or non-financial institutions
Yeah.
and started working with startups. A really interesting group that my group, the Strategic Alliances and Enterprise Payment Group, started working with was a company, a little known company out of Irvine, California called Acorns.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Acorns. Yes.
Yeah. So, that was really cool because they were using this idea of payments as a way to pay yourself first. Now, that wasn't the first time that had happened, but it was the first time a company was really doing that at scale. And it was so incredible to see non-investors, right? People that don't invest in the market now are doing micro investing in our investors. And that like light bulbs just started going off like crazy.
Yeah.
And then in parallel to that, and that was right when Tribevest was kind of hitting me over the head.
Yeah.
But in parallel with that, I had some things going on in my personal life that also lined up well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, with the things in your personal life, how did they kind of collide and kind of parallel, if you're willing to share?
No doubt. So, I think like a lot of your audience, about 12 years ago, 2008, if you remember where we were, that was going into the last financial crisis.
Yeah.
And Great Recession. And my brothers and I, we had good jobs, we were making a good living.
Yeah.
But what we saw was, my uncle, who we had always, thought of as having the best jobs in the world. He worked for IBM and HP, was traveling the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the recession hits and he's out of a job. And not only that, he's 55 and seemingly unemployable.
Sure.
And it just rocked our worlds. We just couldn't understand what was going on. And so we realized that, listen, we have to diversify. Like, we aren't going to go quit our jobs, but we need some other source of income, like something that we aren't so dependent on our paychecks anymore. And we always saw real estate as a way to hack wealth without having to give up our day jobs.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's, and then we had to overcome one of our big challenges, which was, well, now we needed capital.
Right. Of course.
And so that was when we kind of had our breakthrough. We were actually on a fishing trip that we couldn't afford. And my brothers and I, finally, we were just talking about real estate deals and we should do this. And we found we don't have any money, guys.
Right.
And so we said, listen, let's each contribute $500 a month. And that was 4 of us. So that was $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year.
Yeah.
One investment turned into another. And now we look back at our multi-million-dollar portfolio, and we realized that by forming and funding and forming that investor tribe, we secured and unlocked a future we could have never dreamed of.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that, and then all that's going on, and then I see what's going on with Acorns. I say, wait a minute, we're paying ourselves first through automatic deposits too, just bigger chunks. And it turned us into investors when we weren't investors.
Yeah. Talk about Travis, because I'm intrigued, when you talk about the collaboration amongst your family and with your brothers. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. How did you all develop the trust, and how did you deal with not having too many cooks in the kitchen? Because a lot of times when people try to get together in that sense, people, if the mindset's not there to want to see the whole be successful, so they're not all these individual agendas of, I want to do this, but I want to do this. And, I'm going to use, Travis's money to really go do this, and that sort of thing. Did you guys face any of that? And, or was it pretty smooth sailing, obviously because of family, that as each of you are putting that $500 up, and you've got the 2,000, you could agree on, okay, here's the investment we're going to do. Here's how much it could generate for us, and here's kind of the long game.
Yeah. So smooth sailing is not a way I would describe our investor group. But, we did figure out one of the hard things, and that was, how do you get people to be accountable and disciplined in putting capital into the business. So
Yeah.
that was one thing that we really did figure out early on was like, listen, let's set up an automatic ACH payment into our shared business bank account. And that was just comforting to know that that was going to be coming in. But what we didn't consider, or we didn't want to consider, was, all those other things that you mentioned. And that's the hard part. The hard part is, how do we align?
Right.
How do we qualify that we're a good match? And how do we handle the what ifs when they happen? And really, when people started asking us if we could help them form tribes, which investor tribes, which is kind of how Tribevest was created, we had to ask ourselves, what would we do differently? And we would have done a ton differently. But we made the big mistake that almost everybody does. And that's that, hey, our relationship is so strong, we don't have to worry about all those things. Like, we'll figure it out.
Right.
And the fact is that's exactly the reason why you need to make sure you agree on the rules up front.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and that's what Tribevest does. I mean, at its core, we make it super easy to file your LLC, get your partnership, operating agreement, all those things. We make it super easy to open up a business bank account. You'll appreciate this. You can open up a business bank account online with your partners, all online, streamlined.
Wow.
And that's
Excellent.
hard. Maybe the one person that maybe appreciates how hard that was.
Oh, good grief. I could probably tell you, Travis, I'll share a quick story with you. So I was the VP of retail at a credit union, and we were attempting to launch business banking. And, at that point, this is 2017. So, you've got fairly robust, obviously, online banking, but we went through so many meetings and iterations of, because the biggest thing is the KYC and the compliance piece of it, right? Assuring that you're in compliance with, all these arenas. And there were so many what ifs, particularly when you're in, again, a certain market, that is maybe a little bit more prone to account fraud and things like that. So your risk tolerance, could vary. And so I was always trying to convince those guys, hey, let's beta test this. Let's do, there's a way to do it and make it convenient while still, kind of having CYA, for us as an organization. Right. And it was just, again, it was so difficult. So yeah, I'm intrigued on how you guys were able to do that, and then maintain the, kind of somewhat of the compliance piece of knowing who's opening these accounts and, all that type of thing. I'm intrigued by that because we struggled with that to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt. And of course, my financial tech and banking connection network really helped us navigate that very difficult thing. And that's probably another conversation for another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you think about like when my brothers and I walked into a bank 12 years ago and we said we want to open up a business bank account. First of all, they wanted us all there. We're spread all over the country, everything else. But then imagine what happened when we said, we want to set up payments to ourselves. And they didn't know, like they put us over to merchant services.
Right. They didn't know how to handle it.
And we're like, no. We just want to set up an automatic payment to ourselves. And they're like, their heads exploded. They couldn't quite figure out what that meant. You're trying to pay yourself? What? And so it really was kind of this new concept. But yeah, so all those conveniences, which you fully appreciate, on the platform, we make it super easy. We've curated all those things. We have an FDIC banking partner, no coincidence,
Sure.
Jack Henry Bank on the back end.
Yeah.
But really the true value we bring is we're a neutral third party, right? We're in anytime if you've had that conversation where you've said, hey, we should go do, fill in the blank. We should do that franchise.
Right.
We should go buy that house around the corner because we know it's a good deal, or we could flip it. Whatever that is, whatever that is that you've had that conversation, there's always that kind of follow-up of, okay, but who's going to take the lead on
Yes.
that? And who's going to have the burden of figuring out all this stuff? And now there's an app. Now there's an app called Tribevest where you say, you know what, guys, should we go buy that house around the corner from us? Because if we should, I'm going to invite you into Tribevest, and we're going to go through a 29-point alignment process. And if we're aligned and we're a match and we all still want to do this, then Tribevest will help us step through the what we need to do to form and ultimately pull our capital and make some deals together.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to me, it sounds like Tribevest helps people do what you and your family were able to do, which is, come together, be able to collaborate, but then use, the technology and the efficiencies of technology to streamline that process to determine, where synergy, I guess, lies between yourself or your group and whatever opportunities that are out there. And so, yeah, I guess, those early days of developing Tribevest, how did building the platform, I guess, you had the background in FinTech. So obviously, Travis, some of the inner workings of building out the app structure, but, walk us through, because, for those of us that aren't in the tech space, this may be blowing our heads right now in terms of, so you come up with the name Tribevest. What happens? You have, I guess, a group of founders, and you guys are kind of sitting there, kind of like the founding fathers, of the United States, and you're declaring what's going to be what, or, how is that working?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think about, being very, figuring it out. Like I think
Yeah.
about your audience, right? Is,
Yeah.
they're like I was 4 years ago. I had a
Yeah.
great job,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to do something more.
Yeah.
I wanted to find true financial freedom. I had passions that have been pulling at me and
Yeah.
causing anxiety. I mean, to tell you the truth, like I just knew I needed to do more. And of course, Tribevest presented itself as like, man, there's really a void here in the market. But I wasn't gonna, I have two boys and a wife and a
Yeah.
mortgage and all those things. And it was, gosh, how do I do that? And that's the entrepreneur's dilemma. And
Yeah.
but we're fortunate because we're in the golden age of entrepreneurship. Like what used to be so hard, I would have to, go get a server and email system and put a sign on the door and
Right.
all these things. Well,
Right.
now, like for $15, you can have a website and you're in business,
Right.
and leveraging all these other kind of platforms that are out there. So you don't have to go build a multi-million-dollar software platform, which we now have. But
Sure.
in the early days, it was, we were using SurveyMonkey,
Mm-hmm.
sending out emails, spreadsheets, all these things until we figured it out. Of course, I was doing it moonlighting, and
Sure.
until the point where it's like, gosh, this is really working, and more people want us to do this. And then that was kind of a different story, how I could, go to paying myself nothing for a certain amount of time before I could do it. But
Yeah.
it was really a year and a half that it was a transition from, man, I want to do this to actually doing it, and just
Sure.
taking small incremental steps all the way to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Travis, did obviously, were there other founders involved with you as you were launching, and during that year and a half, how was your relationship growing, with those individuals, as you transition to that point?
Yeah, and I think about, to keep the story straight with your audience. I feel like I have a little bit of, Tribevest origins were my brothers and I's business investment tribe, right?
Yeah.
And so that relationship was fantastic. Like I think the other thing that we learned about tribe investing is it's turned into our favorite thing to do together.
Yeah.
We're spread all over the country, and it's the one thing that brings us together on a consistent basis, and it's a social thing now too.
Yeah.
So that's like been amazing. And then when I think about the Tribevest platform, and this is a business, my brothers are investors in the business, but it was really just me as a founder.
Okay.
And that's hard as a solo founder. And really for about 2 years, I was looking for another founder to join me, a co-founder.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the development skill set. So I knew that was going to be the first really big co-founder I was going to have to go find. And it took a long time. I talked to probably 5 or 6 potential candidates over that year and a half. And then finally met my business partner today, who's Zach Bowers. And I'll tell you, it's like a marriage. You have to be ready because you're going to go through hard times, and so the relationship will be tested for sure. But it just continues to grow. It continues to grow.
Yep, absolutely. And so, Travis, as people look at Tribevest, who's your target audience? Who would be the ideal person that would be utilizing Tribevest?
So middle class, hardworking Americans, right? I mean, it's people that don't belong to the country club and don't, already have their attorney, and they don't mind spending $15,000-$20,000 to spin up a investor group amongst their country club buddies, right? Like,
right.
we are, you don't need that anymore. Technology is enabling us. And anybody that's trying to get over a barrier of them starting something or launching something, and if it's wanting to get into real estate, think about how hard that is. You have to have you have to figure it out. You have to have the guts. You have to have the capital.
Right. Exactly.
Doing that on your own is so hard. And why not find other people that are that you trust, know, like, and trust, and are in a similar position, and kind of get the idea that, hey, we can do more together. We can break in together.
Yeah.
And so those are the people, and they probably have they have day jobs, and they're looking at this as another source of income, another source of wealth.
Yep, absolutely. And so how much what's a minimum that people need to have? So if me and 3 other buddies, like you say, that we all like and trust and have confidence in each other, and we want to get into real estate investing through Tribevest, Travis, what kind of, money would we have to bring to the table if we're, we all may be shuffling nickels,
Yeah, no, and there's no minimum, but like it does have to add up.
Right.
And Tribevest, and again, just to point out, like, none of this goes to Tribevest, right? Like, this is your account. This is your business. Like, we're just facilitating. We're the platform that helps you do it. But you do have to do that math. Like, for example, if you wanted to do $100,000 rental, buy a house for $100,000, you're going to need $30,000 to put down on that.
Right.
And so that becomes kind of how you do this. And by the way, we have calculators and surveys that help you do this, and we output kind of what it looks like from the tribe's perspective of how much per member, and what it looks like. But let's just take that 30,000. So you have 3 buddies, and you're going to need $10,000 each, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you have $10,000 each, great. You guys are ready to go into business.
Right.
Or you might say, hey, let's not throw $10,000 in right now. Let's use this feature that Tribevest has, and we can do this $500 a month. And in 18 months, we'll be there. Right. And so, but any more than 18 months is probably too long. Like, ideally, you want to be able to hit that goal or your first milestone together in that first 9 months or 12 months. And that's how you kind of say, hey, how much do we really need to get to critical mass to make this worth it? And we do have tribes that are doing, $100 with, 4 or 5 people, and it's awesome, but that's going to take a long time. Right. Yeah. And and it depends on their goals. But so anyway, we always like to help people say, what are you trying to do and when? And then can you raise that much money with these partners in that amount of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And so how has the business transitioned over the years? And so I'll kind of get into, where you were kind of pre-pandemic. So prior to say the end of February, 1st of March, when then the world just changes, right? If any of us had, our 2020 planners set out, man, have those been blown up for, to say the least, Travis. But so pre-pandemic, how was business going? How was the performance of the company, that sort of thing going? And then talk about it during, as we're going right now, during the pandemic, as pandemic hit, what was the impact?
Yeah, so we're a startup, a software technology startup, and so things are fast moving. Leading, prior to the pandemic, business was going great, and just trending in the right direction. Of course, we were all working in an office, and that all changed. So we're all working remote. We
Yeah.
are fortunate to be in the bits business versus the atoms business. I mean, meaning, what we're not building anything of material. So the fact that we're a digital platform, we're really fortunate.
Yeah.
In fact, that second or third week of the pandemic, our registrations tripled, and we're still seeing that trend. And I don't think it's any surprise. I mean, I think people are home and they're scared about their health, of course, but they're also scared about the economy.
Right.
And have they done everything they can do to make sure that they're in a position financially? And so people are out there thinking like that, looking for new ways of building wealth. And then the other piece of this is, like, we miss the people we care about.
Yeah.
And so, and Tribevest also scratches that too. And
Yeah, it
that,
does.
how do I do more with people I want to do more with?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And as you were saying that, it clicked in my head. I was like, yeah, there's a underlying piece of tying to your loved ones, and like you said, the people that you care about, that quite frankly, people aren't getting the chance to interact with from a physical standpoint as much now like they were pre-pandemic. And so this is an opportunity for them to connect, albeit even if it's still virtually. It's a chance for them to connect and unify their minds. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then Travis, when you were talking about, Tribevest being more of a platform, so you don't have this expense of having this built out, it'd be one thing, I guess, if you were an actual bank, and so you had all this FDIC compliance and, that you had like, hardcore on yourself and deposit requirements and things like that. But because you're a bridge kind of between those two, I think that's beautiful, because like you say, you didn't run into, you're not sitting there staring at the barrel of, what do I do with these 300 employees, and what do I do with, this compliance piece is changing, that compliance piece is changing. So it doesn't seem like you have that hard, really hardcore expense. You don't have this hard infrastructure that's out there that you got to pay for and keep up with. And so, I think it sounds to me like a really beautiful structure that puts you in a nice position. Not that you anticipated a worldwide pandemic, but
Right.
it puts you in a position to withstand a pandemic somewhat.
And we're fortunate, because you're right, we didn't plan for it at all, and we seem to be kind of being a solution out there that people are looking for in it, which feels good. But yeah, and I think it's been very intentional building it like that. I think years ago we kind of came to a point where a lot of entrepreneurs get, which is, how do I scale this?
Sure.
Right? How do I provide more services to more people? And of course, one of the ways you do that is digitizing everything.
Sure.
And it's through beautiful design and incredible development that we've been able to do that. But that's hard. And now we've kind of seen the benefits of doing that.
Yeah, Absolutely. Travis Smith, our guest today, founder and CEO of Tribevest. Everyone go to tribevest.com to check it out and get involved and put your tribe together so you can start doing business together and definitely grow towards your goals. And so as you're going through obviously the pandemic now, you mentioned some increase in traffic, Travis, as again, people are at home and they're now contemplating and getting more serious about these multiple streams of income. Do you see that continuing? Of course, you don't have the crystal ball. None of us do. But do you see that as, who knows when this thing starts to subside and we get vaccines and things like that and things get, there's a reality that sets. That's a post-pandemic reality. Do you see Tribevest continuing on that growth, or do you see it kind of flattening out, or what's kind of your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think, we've always seen the future as, a lot, these digital platforms having their place.
Yeah.
And I think what the pandemic has done is it's really accelerated the timeline where people are more comfortable than ever, interacting on technology platforms. And so we think it just kind of accelerates and what was coming anyway.
Sure.
What we see is less people trying to get more independence, becoming less dependent on their job, less dependent on their paycheck. And we're already seeing this with people being like hustling on the side, doing
side hustles and things. Yeah.
Or whatever their thing is, like what's their passion, and can they turn that into a business? And then you look at some of these new technologies like Uber and Airbnb, where I have an extra room in my apartment and I can actually turn that into a business, a micro business as we call it. Or, I have time and I have a nice car, can I go out there and turn that into a business? And so what we're seeing is, we're all going to have this opportunity to have all these different streams of income. And Tribevest, we hope, is going to be 2 or 3 of those.
Sure.
So you might have a tribe with your family. You might have a tribe with your colleagues. You might have a tribe with your high school buddies, whatever it might be. But all of those are businesses.
Right.
And
exactly.
the more you have of them, the more free you are. I'll just kind of, I'll say this, and I'll love to get your reaction. But my parents, they had one job throughout their career. Right? Ron, you and I will have probably 6. Right?
Yeah, to say the least, right.
Tomorrow, post-pandemic, I think we're going to have 6 at a time. I think we're going to have 6 jobs. And when I say jobs, I mean businesses. I mean, we're going to have 6 micro businesses at a time. And it sounds terrible, but it's not.
Right.
Because they really are manageable. And there's technology out there that like Tribevest that gives you the ability to form a business. And it's little management. Like you're just pulling capital, you're making investments, and then you reinvest those funds. And so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, although right now you've got upwards of 40 million people that are out of work. And so that's really tough. But I think as those people do, a large majority of those people go back to work at some point. And I think you're exactly right. I think when you've got 40 million people in a very similar situation, particularly the way it impacted whole industries, which is, different than '08, which was heavy, real estate driven, right? This is affecting, those industries, like you mentioned, the Airbnb, the hospitality, obviously the restaurant business, having been decimated, a lot of brick and mortar retail. And so I think a lot of those folks a lot of them may have been impacted by real estate on the foreclosure side, but not necessarily on the investor side. And I see them getting involved with something like Tribevest too, as this thing kind of goes along. Something else I'd like to get your reaction to, Travis, is this transfer of wealth. You talked about previous generations, and so I'm interested in your take on baby boomer, great generation. Again, I work for the Ford plant. I make 60, 70 grand a year. I could support my whole family on 60, 70 grand a year because I didn't pay a $200 a month cell phone bill. I didn't have cable. I didn't have Wi-Fi. Bread was, 60 cents a loaf. And, so everything was within line, for a long time within my salary. And then the 80s come and that, begins that spiral of changing all that with student lending and all that type of thing. But really your thoughts on that transfer of wealth. So as you have particularly boomers who obviously eventually will transition life, they're, Gen Xers and millennials they're going to inherit a lot of that wealth that was built post World War II, where you had the greatest economic boom from, kind of the late 40s through, certainly into the 80s of this big economic boom. And a lot of people were benefactors of that. But there's going to be this transfer of wealth to people, like you said, that are going to be accustomed to having multiple jobs and maybe not always building a ton of wealth, certainly not as early on without having, because there's no putting money in a pension and come back 10 years and, oh crap, I've got $250,000 in this pension. So, what are your thoughts on that this transfer of wealth could occur with people that will then be in their primes at that point? Gen X, myself, I'm a borderline Gen Xer, a millennial at 39 years old. And you get this influx of wealth. I see a parallel with your business as, hey, I've been working with Tribevest for this time. All of a sudden, unfortunately, mom and dad transitioned. So now I get this house. I've got, this bank account money. I've got this wealth now. Mm-hmm. Does that create an opportunity for Tribevest, possibly with someone who then is accustomed to your platform, is accustomed to working with companies like yours? It's not like my parents who, I only go to the branch, I don't do anything on my phone, that sort of mentality. To now, I think you've got this perfect storm that could happen of 40-year-old millennials, that are accustomed to your platform who now have money. I'm not just driving an Uber. I'm still driving an Uber, but by the way, I just picked up 50 grand from, a family member that's transitioned.
Yeah, so we're a venture capitalist, or venture capital VC funded startup.
Yeah.
And VCs, despite their many faults, they're really good at seeing the future.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that they really like about Tribevest is, there's going to be, I think Goldman Sachs said $30 trillion.
Yeah.
A 10-year period that's going to be transferred to millennials and Gen Xers. And I think, what we're seeing is people don't want to put their money into the stock market. I think that you should. There should be a certain amount of your money into a stock market. But at some point, people are like, where am I going to put this money? I'm going to just put more money into the stock market. And so I think it will create a wonderful opportunity for them and Tribevest to go into a proven asset class.
Yeah.
That is it's difficult to get into in terms of being new. There are some things that you need to learn and everything else, but it's very much something that all of us can do.
Right.
And so anyway, I think what this does is it gives people the ability to say, hey, I probably wouldn't go do it on my own, but now that I do have some capital, I'd love to form a tribe and learn together and grow together and, continue to build and grow. And I think that's like such an important thing. It's like, you can take all the assets away from my brothers and I, right? Yeah. And we're still financially free because we've learned how to invest in real estate, and we could do it all over again. It might take us a long time. It would suck, but that's the real goal. And people compare us a lot to like, other crowdsourcing platforms, which we love too. Yeah. But it's still this kind of transaction where you don't really own it. And we we're just such big believers as you are, and own the business.
Yes.
Own your business. Own the real estate. And a real estate is a business. If you own a piece of property, you own a business.
Right.
And Tribevest is just a really nice, safe way to do that with others that you know, like, and trust. So
yeah,
it's happening, and we're just glad to be. What we hope will be an important part of people's way they invest and build financial freedom for themselves and the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Travis Smith, our guest today, founder and CEO of Tribevest. That's tribevest.com, where you should go and check that out. Quick question for you, Travis, a little bit off the subject. If I were to give you, I like to ask guests this from time to time. If I were to give you $100 million right now in cash, yep, here, Travis, here's, not a loan, not anything, just $100 million in cash. Here, Travis, do something with this. What would you do? With that kind of cash, and why?
Man, oh man, you got my.
I put you on the spot.
Like, wow, what would I do? I love it.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would take. First of all, I'd feel an obligation to you, a big one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you what you would like me to do with this. What I'd first do,
sure.
And then if I had that influx of money with no strings attached to it,
sure,
I would first set my family up with all the opportunities that I've ever dreamed of for them.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
And the next generations, but I wouldn't need all 100 million of that. That's for sure to do that.
Yeah.
And then I would try to find out where I could impact the world. How could I put a dent in the universe?
Yeah.
And money to me it's important. It's the fuel, I guess. But to me, it's more about what impact could I make in the world?
Yeah.
And it might be put it into Tribevest. I don't know. I mean, but
there you go.
But yeah, that's a fun question to think about.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, I always like to ask that from time to time. Travis, take me back to, I always like to ask entrepreneurs this too, because I think there's something innate within people that are successful, whether it's entrepreneurship, real estate, whatever endeavor that people do. You face obviously tough times. You face difficult obstacles and things like that you have to clear. And people that are successful, I think, have something innate within them that keeps them going when they face tough times. So talk about a tough day or a tough week or month or heck, maybe even a year, that you've had. Hell, I mean, yeah, we all have them. Talk about a tough time like that and kind of what happened, unpack it for us. And then how did you keep yourself going, to continue to be successful, despite of?
I think an endeavor like Tribevest, launching a software platform with the goal of, being a multi-billion-dollar company and really building it from scratch, and one tribe at a time, to 10, to 100, to 1,000, to 10,000. Along that journey, there's a reason to quit every day.
Oh, sure.
Every day there's something that if I was looking for, should I keep doing this? And there's plenty of things telling me to not do this anymore, to keep, to move off of it. And so there's just this resilience that's needed. And I don't know where it comes from. It's a little bit of this, just blind faith that I know that it's worth it in the end.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to get there. I don't know how we're going to get there, and that's part of the fun. Enjoying the journey, getting the most, taking satisfaction out of failure is also really an important mindset.
Yeah, yes.
I know I'm going to hit a brick wall. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and it's probably going to be soon. And what will I learn from that, and how will I grow from it, and how will I get up and react to it? So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question directly, but I'm kind of stubborn. Like in high school, I got, well, even before high school, I got cut from the basketball team my seventh grade year.
Okay.
Barely made the team my eighth grade year. I
Yeah.
got cut again my freshman year. Barely made the team my sophomore year, and then finally my senior year ended up, doing pretty well. But like, why did I keep putting myself through that? I don't know, but I'm glad I did.
Well, it speaks to your perseverance for sure, and your tenacity around wanting to achieve a goal. Even like you say, when you're facing the obstacles, when you give the example of kind of basketball coming through the school ranks, and then when you talk about with Tribevest, I think you hit something home that MYB. I hope you're listening. Every day there's a reason to quit. There's something that can happen, something can be said. Someone can say, hey, you can't do that, you can't do this, that won't work. Why don't you go back to doing this? So every day you could find that, and that could come external, or that could be a voice internally that's telling you that you have to fight against. And sometimes that's the toughest voice, is the voice that's inside that says, you know what, it was a lot easier when you went to work, right, and knew you were getting paid on Friday, as long as you showed up and didn't violate the employee handbook, right? But it's different when you've got your own company and everybody's looking to you, and you've got to kind of lead it through those difficult times. So I think you hit that on the head. That's a great best practice for people to take away, is how to continue to go when every day could be a day that you could easily take something and justify it and say, you know what, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore, right? And so what are some other best practices, Tim, that have worked for you that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think there's one that I always mention, and to me, it's the only one that works for everybody. Like, I think it works for everybody.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not sexy, or, doesn't feel like a good tip because of that. But I started meditating or praying, every morning. Every
Yeah.
morning I get up, and I actually have a spreadsheet that I use, and I count 3 blessings from the 24 hours before that, and I
Yeah.
count them, right? And then I do visioning, right? And that's a little bit of that overcoming, all the other reasons why you shouldn't, to be able
Right.
to visualize a future, and spending time on it and thinking about it deeply is such a valuable practice, and it
It
helps
is.
with your perseverance. And then I do 20 minutes of meditation or prayer, and my mantra is, um, um, I expand in abundance, success,
Mm,
and love every
yeah.
day, while encouraging and inspiring those around me to do the same.
Mm,
And I
yeah. I
really
like that.
focus on those words, and it changed my life. So I have to share it, and
Yeah.
I hope, and if you do, if you do that, it will change your life.
Yeah.
So it's the one piece of uh, advice I know for sure works.
Man, I love that, Travis, man. The whole meditation and the prayer, regardless of where people, place themselves in that spectrum. I think, the big thing takeaway with that is that time to yourself, and the time to reflect, and the time to kind of dead all the noise around you and focus in on the perspective and what's, truly valuable at the end of the day, right? What truly has value and what will last. And you talked about, the love and, the respect and the honor of the opportunity that you have. I think that resonates with all of us, and that's something that is easily to lose in all the cares of our day-to-day walks, right? And all the stack rank lists we have of everything we're responsible for, and everybody pulling at us with their demands and their desires, and that sort of thing, personally and professionally. I think taking that time every day, and I like, obviously you could expect the FinTech guy to have it in the spreadsheet, but have it somewhere, right, where you can access it and look at, those things that you value. And really, like you say, hone in on those. I think it probably helps you to not get so caught up in the challenges and the obstacles and, how big or small that they are. And you can, focus in on things that are positive, that helps your positive mindset. So I love that you shared that, because I think
Oh,
that helps us
thanks.
all.
I'm glad. And I know it's not easy too. Like I have two small kids, and like trying to find the time, like it's not easy. But I was a night person. Now I've forced myself to be a morning person because I got to wake up at 5 to do it. But
Yeah.
if you are motivated, find the time, and it will change your life.
Yep, no doubt about it. And so, Travis, share with us how we can get in contact with you, how we can connect with your team, and where all we can connect with you on social media and that sort of thing. And so, and MYB, these contact information will be in the show notes for you. So, but yeah, share how we can connect with you.
You've mentioned it a number of times, and I appreciate it. Tribevest.com. You can follow me at Trav, Twitter, Trav. Also Facebook, Tribevest. And if you go onto our website and you put in to the contact us or contact me, you can ask for me, and I'll respond directly to you. So don't hesitate. And I appreciate the opportunity here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, MYB, I'll share with you to make sure that you go to tribevest.com. If you want to request Travis, do so. But let him know that you heard him here on the Minding Your Business podcast. And if you've got questions, if you got a family group or a group of friends and you guys want to get together and do some things, and maybe you've got some questions, or maybe you've started with Tribevest and maybe you've got some questions or opportunities that you see, share that with Travis. Let's support the business, and then share, if you have something on your wish list. Hey, Travis, I really wish I could do this with you guys, or I wish you could do that. Share that with him as well, MYB, because that helps. Obviously Travis and his team as they're looking at things down the line. It would be great if you can share things that that are opportunities all around. But certainly if you got something your wish list, that it would be great if, so
Oh,
think about that and
I'm
share it.
so glad. I'm so glad you said that. And as I'm sitting here thinking, I would love anybody that references Ron in this show. We'd love to offer a free concierge service.
Awesome.
Again, I'll
Awesome.
respond directly, but we do have tribe guides that can answer all your questions on an ongoing basis too. And we would just love to offer that as a free service to anybody listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody, thank you so much for that, Travis. You definitely appreciate that offer. And NYB, make sure that when you go to tribevest.com and they contact us, just fill that out, completely. And then just, drop a line and just mention that you heard Travis right here on the Minding Your Business podcast again. So listen, Travis, I know it's a busy Friday. We're getting towards the end of May, which is just crazy. We're going to be here in June already in this year. But thank you so much, man, for taking time out to join us here on the podcast, and, best wishes and safety to you and your family.
Ron, thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I've learned a lot. And I want to follow up with you because I've got something I'm working on as an idea that I'd love to just get your opinion on for a few minutes that's related to FinTech. And so I'll be reaching out to you here over the next week or so, so we could have that conversation.
I love it. Look forward to it.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thanks, Travis. Take care, man.
You too. Thanks.
Bye. All right. So that was Travis Smith, founder and CEO of Tribevest, man. Make sure y'all go to tribevest.com. Do that today. Check it out and get your tribe together. Get your folks together, your family, your friends, or a combination of all the above. And it's a great way to get involved and begin investing, so that you can provide other avenues to build, not just wealth, but to build camaraderie as well. As you heard Travis say, people are doing more and more of. So Thank you for a great episode. Thank you again to Travis Smith. Thank you for all of you that are listening. Again, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pods. Go to the THEMYB podcast. So the MYBpodcast.com, where you can get more content and listen to any of the episodes of the Minding Your Business podcast. Also, Brand Pod. Go to Brand Your Pod. If you're interested in launching your own podcast, definitely have people that are doing that. I talked about this with Travis, but since the pandemic hit, I've been picking up a lot of opportunity. When I say a lot, we've got 8 different podcasters right now that are looking to launch podcasts. And that's just been since around the end of March. So if you're sitting on your podcast idea, now is the time. So reach out to me at brandyourpod.com. Love to have a consultation with you to help you, through the idea generation, to the type of equipment that you need, to formalizing your idea, getting it launched, getting it in the platforms that you want to make sure that you're in, and then ultimately monetizing your podcast so that it can be a revenue source personally and professionally for yourself. So go to brandyourpod.com. Listen, Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. Listen, you all go be great and enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Take care.